Elise, Florence is this little iOS experience.
Sure is.
Now there's the classic "is this a game" argument, but the easy pitch for this thing, just to get a framework, and I think this kind of blows out of proportion a little bit, but the easy pitch that I saw at first was it's WarioWare meets Eternal Sunshine on mobile.
I don't know if I go that far.
It's a digital comic book.
Yeah, it's kind of like an
Interesting.
interactive graphic novel is the way I would
It's
describe it.
beyond that. It's slightly more interactive than you'd expect if you set it up as a
Sure.
graphic novel.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I say interactive graphic
Okay.
novel.
So what is the experience like? What are you actually doing in this graphic novel?
Okay, so, well, basically, you're playing as this young girl named Florence, and she ends up meeting someone named Krish, and it's all about this relationship that develops between the two. And I think really its biggest draw is just like how grounded that story is, and it's minimally interactive, I guess you could say, but like the small actions that you do, how do I explain this?
They're really good.
They are really good.
They're
And
really clever things.
They're kind of like on some way reminds me a little bit of like What Remains of Edith Finch's short stories, like a little bit in terms of like there was that one short story where you have the camera and you're doing snapshots.
Oh right.
Whereas like in Florence, there's one where like there's a bicycle crash and you're kind of trying to focus all these different images with a slider.
Series
You're
of
trying
little.
to put them all like into focus, and like so yeah, the little things like that, little jigsaw puzzles, little math.
Hang on, we got to focus on jigsaw puzzles because I think it's so brilliant. I think I absolutely love this experience for what it is. But one of the clever things is like you can go on a first date in this game, in this experience. I'll call it a game, by God. And so you go on this first date, and you just have a big speech bubble, and then it's like, all right, here's a bunch of jigsaw pieces. Figure out what to say. Your date just said something. Now it's time for your retort. And it's like, okay, first date. I guess this, just awkwardly putting together this complex jigsaw puzzle, and then throughout the course of the relationship, in theory, the jigsaw like puzzle pieces get smaller and smaller and easier and easier to put together.
It was even the course of that date.
I guess you're right.
Which is what I like. Yeah. I thought was probably the strongest moment for me of the whole game. Is like in my mind that is the part of the game that where it like leverages its interactivity the best to like convey something about what's happening. In that like
for sure,
like the date starts off and it's like putting the pieces together is a little bit like clumsy and weird, and there are a lot of them, and then by the end of the date it's like super easy. You get the sense that like this conversation's like flowing between them.
I think what's so cool about that is like exactly, it kind of like shows you that the conversation is flowing better, and it's like even from their facial expressions and stuff, like you start off with like kind of like clumsily putting the jigsaw pieces together and having trouble, and then even the music starts to go smoother, and then the puzzle pieces are bigger, and like everything just becomes smoother to like amplify this idea that these two people are getting along and that it's going well. And like the fact is there's no dialogue in this. There's no words. So everything is conveyed with like illustrations and with those like little interactive moments.
Yeah, it's a series of clever metaphors for being in a relationship. Just simple stuff like, she's encouraging him to do something, and so you have to like tap on the screen to like push him towards doing something. Or this is maybe a little more abstract, but eventually move in together, right? It's a relationship, everybody. Hopefully there's no spoilers here. But eventually you move in together, and you have like a box of his stuff, and you're trying to fit it on the shelf. And it's like, at a certain point, you have to make a compromise and take some of your old stuff off the shelf so you can fit his stuff on the shelf before you can move on to the next sequence. It's really clever little things like that. Joe, however, hates love and fun and everything good in the world. What's your take on this, Joe?
So I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed Florence, actually.
Great.
But
discussion.
But I think part of what sticks for me is that like I wanted more stuff like that first date thing, more points where it felt like the interactivity was like conveying something about what was happening or the characters.
Instead of just like brushing teeth by wiping back and forth.
It's like, okay, there's a lot of brushing teeth. Or like you said.
Well, it's our relationship. There's a lot of brushing teeth.
Like the moving in part that you were talking about is like that's not there's no consequence for that. The game does not respond to what you take off or put on the shelf.
Doesn't it later?
It doesn't.
Okay.
I mean, unless I totally missed it, like I mean, the game is about. I'm not gonna worry too much about spoilers. So like, there's also a part. I mean, that's what it is.
Okay. I didn't have to say it, but okay.
Well, because part of it is that like there's a part where you're taking stuff off the shelf,
right?
again, and like it did not remember the state that I had put it in before.
Right, that's what I was trying to remember. Like, how accurate is it to the state that you originally did it? Yeah. But it does remember certain things. Like, if you're designing, you play yourself as a little girl and you're like designing a butterfly, and it like harkens back to that later. There are certain callbacks to your activities earlier on. I agree. Yeah. I could have used more. I was waiting. Like, there's some emotional gut punches in the game, but I was waiting for like the almighty gut punch of everything that I had done directly tying into something more specific. I guess, right. Which is probably too much to hope for. This is crazy Hail Mary, but
yeah, I guess like you said, I guess the line for this game of like, is it a game or not?
Right.
I'm ultimately not super interested in that debate specifically as much as it is like, I think to be a good game, you have to like use your interactivity really well. And to me, I think it tells a great story. I think its ambition of like, telling a sort of, I mean, like Elise said in her review, telling a sort of ordinary story in an extraordinary way, I think is like,
it's awesome.
It does that well. But as a game, as an interactive experience, I felt like it didn't really clear the bar that could have made it really special for me, partially because of like it just does such ordinary stuff with it.
I feel like sometimes when like it's hard because like when it comes to like portraying like relationships and stuff in games, like I don't always want those to be super like gamey. Do you know what I mean? Like and I look at I know maybe that's not what you're saying exactly.
No, I'm not saying gamey. Like I don't want more systems. I don't want like
hunger meter.
Yeah. But you're saying that you wanted the game to respond to like your earlier actions more.
Not necessarily like that would be part of it, I guess. But sure. For me, it's more stuff like that one, like that scene where it's the things that I'm doing, the things that I'm interacting with. It's like there's a level of feedback there, or like Edith Finch does. I mean, like Edith Finch would not work on the page. You couldn't flip that through. The way you interact with that game is like crucial to your experience with those characters in that story.
I hear you.
With Florence, sure. It would be 99% as effective if I was just turning the pages.
I disagree.
I don't think
so. Yeah, I don't think so.
It would for me.
It seems silly to me to get like so obsessed with what this game could be when as it stands, it's a $3 iOS thing that gives a wildly novel experience that I've never had in a game before. Playing through a relationship. It was actually
like quite ambitious what it did.
Yeah. Frankly, Joe, I think you're an
Hey.
No, that's fine.
I'm okay. If that's what I am, that's what I am.
No, but dude, I mean, you would recommend it to people. It's such a weird little thing if you're interested in an interactive relationship. I think
I went in not expecting very much, and then came out of it feeling like that was a lot more than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
and that's saying something because it's a pretty short game.
Yeah, you can finish it in like 30, 40 minutes, something like that. It depends on how long you spend brushing your teeth. I guess.
Depends how long.
I spend a lot of time brushing my teeth.
I can tell, Daddy.
I guess I'm just a big fan of those of games that do try to be kind of intimate or personal or don't try to be like crazy like full of action or whatever, like just kind of focusing in on this young girl's like chapter in her life.
Yeah.
And I feel like I connected with her, like I'm the same age as her, and I felt like I'm like, hey, that mundane routine, like I've had that in my past too, and like I feel like it's so relatable, and that kind of ups and downs of that relationship is something a lot of people go through, but it's done in a very like evocative way.
Yeah.
That's really immersive.
And just to round out the conversation, 8.0 out of 10, right, Elise?
Yes.
It's a strange game to like reviewing this is tough, right?
It was. I think I was struggling to put it into words originally, just because it's hard because it's not the most interactive thing, like it is, like I said, minimally.
Right.
I don't know. So it was hard, and I think it's one of those games that I kind of wished I didn't have to give it a score, actually, because like I want to recommend Florence to everybody, but it's like
it's not some sort of masterpiece of game design, right? In the way you
now I can see that it's not as good as Driver San Francisco.
It seems almost like arbitrary to like it seems like arbitrary to like add like a number to it when
don't tell the reviews editor, he's sitting right next to you.
I know, I just whatever.
It's a really tough one to review.
It
for
is.
sure.
I hope it comes to PC or Android because I don't have an iPhone. So
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess it's not an Android, is it?
No, it's only iOS. But I mean, I feel like there's a good chance it could come to Android. Why not?
Yeah. Or I'm trying to think about like Steam. I guess some things are kind of more touch based, but it's not impossible that they could port it on there. Yeah, I'd hope so. It's a really unique thing.
Yeah.
One of my favorite experiences of the year so far in the gaming world, I'd say. Thank you so much for watching this excerpt from the Game Informer Show podcast. You can subscribe to the audio version and listen to new episodes airing every Thursday. We cover big games on the horizon, games that we've just reviewed. We have long-form developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So check it out every Thursday.